Welcome to Keyframers, the animated collaborative coding live stream where we bring imaginative user interfaces to life. I'm your host, Stephen Shaw, but you may know me as @Shashaw.
And I'm your host, David Khourshid, also known as @DavidKPiano.
Together we are coding compadres, animation amigos, Boolean buddies, and keyframe companions.
And we'll be creating animation from scratch live using HTML, CSS, and a small bit of JavaScript.
That's right. Keyframers is made possible by your support. Get special shoutouts as we stream by pledging on Patreon, subscribing on Twitch, or donating at streamlabs.com/keyframers.
Yeah, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. So reach out in the Twitch chat or in the YouTube comments or on Twitter or send us some mail. I don't know. Do what you do.
Well, we should set up a P.O. box just to see what comes in. Maybe people could send in stickers.
Hey, stickers are nice. We will show off all your stickers on this channel.
Yes. David, I have a very important question for you.
I have a very important answer.
Are you GDPR compliant?
At Microsoft, yes.
Oh,
we have done a lot of work to remove the random cookies that we really don't need, and I've been telling them we don't need for many months, but anyway. But yeah, I'm GDPR compliant in that I don't do any business with Europe. So by default, that makes me GDPR compliant. How about you?
Who needs Europeans?
Lots of people.
None of them are watching right now because it's midnight there, so we can get away with that. But no, we love Europe, and the privacy measures are a good thing. But
they are.
It's been a little bit of a pain getting client sites updated for all that, but I suppose it's worth it.
Yeah.
Well, hey. So you said you didn't have anything to show this week, but for some reason, I had a ton of stuff that's come out this week. Mind if we take a look?
Go for it.
All right, let me get us switched over here. You can see this is something you've seen, David, the CSS mask animation code pin that I made. I guess I never really realized that that masks and mask image could be made with just linear gradient and radial gradient like a standard background image, but they can. And the beautiful part of that is you have properties for mask size, mask position. You can do all sorts of craziness with that, moving the mask around or scaling the mask up and down, and it's moderately performant. I'm still trying to get official word on if animating masks is performant enough for everyday use. But
if it looks fine, it's fine.
Right.
We tend to get a little bit too like deep into the, how many milliseconds can we save or whatever.
Yeah.
That's just my mini rant.
It's important considerations, and when you think about it looks performant, but this is a very specific environment in a specific browser, so you absolutely have to do your performance testing.
Yeah.
And then I also made a nice little 3D CSS animation, recreating a lovely bees and bombs GIF, just using some nice little CSS 3D cubes. And I lost you. Hold on. There we go. Hey, and we're back. My goodness, my mouse keeps disappearing. But yeah, just using a few CSS animations and getting things going. It was surprisingly easy after I got everything set up. The trapezoids were notoriously hard. Have you ever made trapezoids with CSS?
I tried, especially when I was working on that animated dog that I did a while ago. So yeah, basically just trying to do any illustrations with CSS. You will run into times where you have to use trapezoids, and there's a few different techniques, all with their pros and cons. Yeah, clip path is probably the simplest thing you could do, though.
Yeah, regrettably, I didn't really think about that until after I'd launched the animation and somebody
Great.
mentioned it. But hey, live and learn. Um,
Yeah.
and then, all right, I've got something top secret. I showed this to you earlier, David, but nobody else has really seen this. This is going to be launching probably next week. It's a site for the company that I work at. It's I've got my device emulation settings on. It's a little microsite for a campaign that we're doing. The company I work for is called L Creative, and we do a lot of really fantastic stuff. And this year, our theme is kind of get uncomfortable. And so we made an uncomfortable website with a lot of nice animations and fun things that I think people will enjoy diving into. And
Cool.
still,
The beauty is that you could make it really janky and non-performance, and that makes plenty of people uncomfortable anyway. So it's where it
exactly,
works.
exactly. So yeah, I'm real excited about that one launching. You'll just keep an eye on Twitter and stuff, and I'm sure I'll post it there. So anyway, shall we get started?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
So, speaking of Europe and being across the ocean, we have a very oceanic themed dribble thing today. And yeah, if you want to show it.
Yeah, I've got it pulled up now. So this is entitled "Save the Oceans" website by Tubic, I believe is how you pronounce that. They're some kind of agency, right?
Yeah, they're an agency based in, I think, Moscow or St. Petersburg. I mean, obviously, they're, Russia. Those are pretty much the only two cities where things happen. Uh, sorry, that's probably wrong. Um, but I have been doing a lot of their dribble recreations for many, many years, and they're some of my favorite people to try to bring their dribbles to life just because they make some incredible stuff and it's always a blast trying to recreate them, especially with just CSS, which there's a chance that we could do this with just CSS today.
Yeah, I think it's pretty feasible.
Yeah.
So one of the most interesting aspects of it is kind of this text that slides back and forth, but it's not just normal text. No, it has some kind of image overlaid on it, which
Mm-hmm.
it's a rather cool effect. We'll dive into how exactly we'll do that. Let's get over into our favorite extension, GIF Scrubber, so we can take a little slower look at this. So I joked earlier about us having a chance of redemption at the sliding numbers from last week.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see what we can do on that because we've got these beautiful sliding numbers right over here, and then that we've got the background kind of shifting as it moves over to the next slide, and then the text and content kind of changing out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think this is all pretty feasible. Anything you're worried about, David?
Um, Not exactly. So we do have to do some special treatment for some non-obvious parts. And these non-obvious parts are non-obvious because they might seem innocuous, but they trip a lot of developers up because they run into doing this a lot. And what I'm talking about, because I realized I didn't explain it, is like you know that part where they say we can help to save oceans, and then it transitions to saving nature, we save our future.
Mm-hmm.
So any developer, myself included, just now, would just go ahead and be like, all right, let's put an H1 there. We can help to save the oceans. The problem with that is that when you're switching views, it's like, how do you smoothly transition from one view to another? And so the secret is you have to set up, like we talked about in previous episodes, layers so that we could layer them one on top of each other and then smoothly transition them. So that requires some forethought. Otherwise, you're going to end up ripping a lot of HTML out and a lot of CSS out, and you're going to cause yourself a few headaches. So
yeah,
we're going to go over the layering technique in order to figure out how to do that. And it's actually pretty simple.
Is it safe to say that we're going to be sliding layers?
We won't be sliding layers. We will just be layering. So no sliding today.
Okay, excellent. No sliding other than the way the text actually moves.
Right.
Okay. Well, shall we get into it?
Let's get into it.
All
it
right.
looks really ugly right now, but
wow. This is great. Just a little bit of setup done here. No JavaScript or anything yet, which we may not even need.
Right, which will be good to avoid.
Okay. So we've got
because otherwise we would have to use GreenSock, and GreenSock just came out with a new version today, 2.0. Check it out.
Right. Happy GreenSock release day, everyone.
Yeah,
it's
good job, guys.
Version 2.0, which is very exciting. Main changes being under the hood with better package support for bundlers and the like, which is a good thing for modern dev.
Always a good thing.
Okay. All right, so we've got our main wrapper. We've got ocean, which I assume is you're wanting for the kind of ocean imagery and maybe the stop text. We've got our page numbers. We've got our hero title. Div class equals content down here, because why not? And
yeah. So one thing I wanted to point out, and this is the whole layering technique here. If you scroll down to the .layer class in the CSS over here,
yes,
this is our layer, and you're going to, as a developer, you're going to find yourself repeating this over and over again. Sometimes if you're like Shaw, you might do bottom 0 and right 0.
If
but
you
otherwise,
are smart, you will, yes.
So you could do this or this.
Or both with margin auto. And then if you ever adjust the width and height, you get a nice centered little box. Which do you have any layers in there right now?
Yeah, there's one.
Okay.
See? Yeah, there's that one. And that one is there because that's going to change. And so I could actually show you how that looks because we have to prepare it anyway. So I could set up another layer, just copying and pasting this layer, and let's see what this one says. Saving nature, we save our future.
Axel CZP is now following on Twitch. Thanks for following.
Hey, thank you.
Oh, hey, we've got overlapping text here. That's
exactly
that's different.
And so that's good. Well, not good, but like that's to show the point. This is what you want. And obviously not as the end result, but when you're working towards this, you want them to line up perfectly on top of each other so that you could animate the layers one by one smoothly without having to do any sort of HTML or CSS gymnastics. But yeah, so that's the whole layering technique. And it's a good idea. So hopefully you learned something today.
Yeah, I dig it. And then we've got the duplicated button. We could probably get around that by playing with the way that we layer a little bit, but I'm not super concerned about it right now. But one way I've kind of used layers in the past is to have the top layer being actually position relative and just kind of setting the size of the container, and then the rest of it having the other layers being position absolute within that, and then that initial layer kind of gives you the width and height you need, and the other layers take up basically the same amount of space. but we'll have about the same result here because we've got the same length text. Okay.
Did I break something?
You're just adding the
okay.
inputs, yeah.
So I'm adding a few radio buttons just for fun. And I think you could probably see where I'm going with this.
I broke something. All right. Okay.
Yeah. And so that's how we're going to, and this is a common technique that I use for a lot of my CSS-only pens, is that I would use radio buttons or checkboxes in order to just toggle between different states. And then you could use pseudo selectors in order to take that check state and manipulate the CSS and HTML that way.
Yeah, that checkboxes come in super handy for JavaScriptless state toggling. And we got a new follower, Metal Blue, on Twitch. Thanks for following. Glad to have you on board here. Let's see. All right. I'm not positive that that's going to work the way that you need. Because you've got the adjacent selector there. I think you're going to have to add in the
parent. You're right. I forgot that. There we go. Okay, so then, well,
you could also swap that out with the just universal selector.
But why?
Because specificity.
I guess that's a good point. All right, so what I like to do here is, instead of saying what should be shown, we could say what should not be shown, right? Actually, no, this is fine. Well, no. Yeah. So I want to show, because in my styles, I don't want to litter my styles with display none, display none. It's like, wait, why are you styling it if it's display none? So instead, the default should be that they're display blocked. So over here, we could just do, if it's not display none, then display none. And so now, that worked.
Does it?
Oh.
Yeah, I was gonna say that might be a little too inclusive.
Oh, and hey, we like being inclusive here. Okay, so there we go. So what this complex, and it is pretty complex, selector is saying is that if you have the data scene attribute, but that's not the data scene that we want, then hide it. Because we're going to have 4 different, I call them scenes. And so they're going to be like 1, 2, 3, or 4. The animation only shows 2 scenes, but we could ad lib. So we could just copy, paste this. This is why it's better for this to be dynamic, but that's okay.
Yeah, as long as your number of states isn't too crazy.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
fine.
All right, so now if we toggle between like the first 2, then we'll see that they change, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we're good there.
Okay. Where are you setting? Oh, color. Setting color white and background color white. Can't do that. Let's see. Where's Ocean and Hero color? Go. Okay, that explains things. Okay. Let's go to lorem pixum. Get a nice image here so we can start looking like a
Yeah,
an ocean. Haven't used this site before. Pixum.photos. Super handy for just dropping in some stock photography, and I think I have the perfect one here. Back to that. Where is ocean?
While you're doing that, I'm adding the ocean text, and that's going to be the big text that overlays the ocean. And so we're going to give that font size of like really, really big, like 20 V min. Even bigger. Let's go bigger. 30 V min. Oh gosh.
We should probably be just basing it on viewport width, right?
Well, since it's based on it's going to be based on the height, actually. That's going to be the main constraint because it could overflow to the left and right. And so let's do 40 viewport height, which is going to be the same as vmin, at least in this case. And that looks good, I think.
Sorry.
White bold. Yeah, we're going to need to change our font so that we have like something. Your water looks really, God bless your soul. My God. That was like an exorcism, not a sneeze.
Yeah, mine are pretty bad.
Anyway, yeah, we're going to have to change the font, but we'll do that later.
I'm working on it.
All right, so we have our big stop here. So yeah, I'm wondering, do you know how we could achieve the effect in the animation? Do we want to dive right into that? Like just not the animation effect, but more the background clipping effect.
Oh yeah, yeah, we can certainly do that. Let me get the font dropped in here because that'll help sell the effect here. Sorry for sliding.
I wish the dribbles. I wish the dribbles told us what font they were using. That's really useful. They have the colors, and that's a really nice feature. Fonts, not so much. But design is all about fonts. It's Helvetica, whatever other font there is besides Helvetica.
Comic Sans.
Comic Sans, yeah. It's a good one. All right, so we're going with Railway.
Yeah, that seems pretty close.
I dig it. We might have to add a different fonts, though, for the numbers. And the reason why is because the numbers are more of a condensed font.
That's true. That's true.
So let me see if I could find something.
Okay, you do that, and I'll start getting the text effect set up.
Yeah. Cool.
Right. So one thing we can do here is on ocean text, set background inherit, because it's a child of ocean, so it's going to get the same background here. When I'm debugging, I always like to add a outline or border so I can see which layer I'm working with here. Don't need that on content right now. And what we'll do is add the beautiful background clip. Get background text. Oh, the image
I have so many tabs open. How many tabs are you on?
Well, I trim it down for running the keyframer stream because it's rather resource intensive.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So I use a nice little session saver extension to handle that.
So I think I'm at like 50 or so. It's pretty bad.
I've heard better.
All right, so I'm using Oswald. That's what I'm going to use for the count.
Ah, okay, that's a good one. Okay, so what I did, just background clip text and WebKit background clip text. That one still needs to be prefixed, and then color transparent. And you can see that that is working because we can barely see the text. So what I'm going to do is, instead of color transparent, the little trick I found today, to give just a slight color to the text so it overlays the appropriately.
Yeah, I think we need to offset the image too, give that cool design effect.
Yes, background position, maybe 20. Oh. There we go. There. Very cool. At some viewport sizes that lines up, but we can see about another image, alternate ocean photography. Browsing stock photography. It's a pretty good one. Let's try. Ooh, feels a bit better, right?
Now it's very blue. I don't know.
I like blue. And then,
I mean, better than the one you had previously. That's for sure. Get for sure. All right, sorry.
Oh, David.
We have fun.
We don't pun nearly enough on here.
No, we don't. We really should. You know, I can see why it would be a good thing.
I think it's a matter of trying to code and talk and make puns at the same time.
Yeah.
More than anything.
But trust me, in future episodes, we will be drowning in puns.
Relative. Oh, that was terrible, David. I was trying to type, man. Come on. Can't do that.
I'm trying to think about how this number thing is going to work. One of the best things to do when thinking, oh, that looks really nice, by the way.
Thank you.
But one of the best things to do when thinking about like how an animation is going to work is actually stepping away from the code completely. Step away from the computer and think about like, how would it work in real life? And so with this number thing, I'm thinking like, imagine a ticker or just something like a sheet of paper where like only part of it is shown. And so in order to get from one number to the next, you would slide that piece of paper vertically. And yeah, I'm sure like that's how some counters work. Like for example, the odometer on your car, right?
I'm with you so far.
Yeah. So it would work by just you're moving that. It's a circular object, but you're still moving it up and down. And sort of the same way that I guess the Apple iOS, those spinners work too. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to do it using CSS variables. Let's do it.
Hey, you know what? I just set up some CSS variables.
Really?
Yes. So if you look up above your checkbox stuff, you can see where I've added a few lines. Basically, just populating a CSS variable called scene for whichever scene is active.
Oh,
And this way,
that's
we can
really
have a lot
useful.
of fun. because
gosh.
what we can also do is set a total variable of 4, and then using calc with division, we can calculate percentages and all sorts of things to create fun effects. For example, let's go down to ocean text and set transform translate x with calc. Let's do -100% times var total. Let's see, what is it? Var scene divided by var total. Add a few more parentheses here, and let's see what that does. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Composition.
Don't mind me right now.
No, you're fine. Okay. So one thing I like to do is that percentage is a very useful number. So I'm going to go up here and actually set that as its own CSS variable that will be dynamically percentage populated here. Whenever scene changes here, it will change this percentage variable and give us a nice, easy to use var. You could probably call this progress or something like that as well. Now, do you know why the text is cutting off with the P if you toggle between the states here?
Which texts?
The stop. So toggle between the states, and you can see the P is missing, or it is for me. Okay,
I see the P.
Well, it's relative to screen size here. So since I'm on stream screen size, it's being cut off thanks to overflow hidden, I believe.
Interesting. It's fine for me. Works on my machine. That's all that matters.
Well, yeah. Let's see.
What did you name that CSS variable? Oh, scene. You just
Yeah.
named it scene. Okay. Cool.
Okay. That's so weird. Why would that be cut off? Maybe it's my background size. Don't know that that's it. Background size 150. Let's see. No. What is the deal? It's very strange. All right. If anyone has some suggestions on that, why that text is getting cut off at a smaller screen size, please let me know. It's not crucial because it's working well at a better screen size, but you know, we try to be responsive, code responsively. Hey, look at those numbers shifting. What have you done? What have you done, David?
Yeah, they're shifting sort of correctly, sort of the wrong way. It's okay. Like, this is progress though. So yeah, I took that number sheet idea, right? And then using those CSS variables, both the scene variable and the total variable, just to see how far we need to move this sheet of paper. You know, that's a physical analogy I'm going with. We could figure out like where to position them. So now I need to do a little bit of math and figure out how to make it go the other direction. And I think we could do that by just, all right, so given the scene, so if it's 1, we want it to be all the way down. Yeah, so var total minus fair scene. That's correct. It's close.
Hey, I think I got it. So I think it was just display block was clipping the text to the parent container width. So switching it to display inline block seems to help. Maybe, yeah, okay, that's all it was.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll go ahead and leave white space no wrap, which does white, yeah, white space has a dash. Why does that? No wrap has no dash, and white space has dash.
Yeah, so that was one of the mistakes that they said, when they were originally making CSS, I guess.
One of the creative choices.
Yeah, you could say that. I also add some transitions, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Just
Thank
on
you.
everything, just so we could see things moving. I know people like to see things being animated, but I'm really liking this whole number thing right now because it just works.
Yes, that's beautiful.
It's
Let
beautiful.
me go down to where you've done that. So under page number ones. Okay. Explain yourself.
Oh, with this whole transform mess?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to
Bless this transform mess.
Okay, so stop highlighting. All right, so this one, it's going to give us like, let's say that the total is 4. So we're basically, hold on. I'm going to split this out so that's very, very easy to understand, sort of. So basically, if we're on scene 1, then we map this to like 4 minus 1, which is 3, right? And so, same thing with 2 is 4 minus 2, which is 2. So we're going to take that number, like let's say it's 3, and 3 times 100% divided by the total, which is 4, that's 3 times 25%, which is 75%.
Yeah.
And so if you think about the numbers, and so I'll just go here, 1, 2, 3, 4. If we move it down, and so I'll put the 0 over here. Okay, so if we move down 100%, then we're going to get this, which is not what we want. So we want to move down 75%, so it's over here. That makes sense. And then, so for 2, that's 2 times 25% is 50%. So that ends up being right over, this is a lot more difficult than I thought, right over here.
Beautiful.
Because it's 50% of the way down, right at the bottom, right there.
Yes. Though you have broken something with the calc, so it's not working in the live version.
Yeah, well, I could just Command Z, and then that fixes everything.
In theory.
Right?
There we go.
Yeah. It's fixed. Cool.
Beautiful.
Yeah, now my issue right now is that this page numbers thing is taking up, it's like a very, very big area. So I'm going to make it smaller.
Page numbers is taking up a very big area? What do you mean? Oh, the actual text being exposed?
Yeah, so I'm just going to call this left side. Naming things is hard. So this is called left side now. And so now we're going to do right numbers. So this is going to be flex, specify contents, flex start, and align items, flex start. So hopefully this is now, oh wait, no. It's still growing. Why are you growing? Page numbers should not be full height.
Yeah, with that, can't you just set
oh yeah,
height
flex shrink.
1em?
I could do that, or I could flex shrink 1 to make sure that it shrinks. And it didn't work.
Curious.
Let's see, let's take a look at this. So this page numbers thing. All right, so this left side, I have it as display. Actually, all right, yeah. Sometimes we like to get lost in this whole like display flex or display grid thing. Instead, what I'm going to do is have it position absolute because that's what it should be, right?
Yep.
Bottom 0, left 0, and then we're fine, I believe. And now it's gone.
Yeah. So this is why I go back to the borders to see what's happening. Yeah, it looks like left side is being hidden behind maybe content.
Oh wait,
it was a line self end maybe. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so now for this one, what if I do display inline block? Man, yeah, all I want is for it to only take its heights. But honestly, we could tackle that later.
Yeah.
And move on to something else. I just need to think about that. If you have an idea,
well,
because
yeah. let me play with it a little bit. You can move on to something.
And now there's a little bit of space in between there. All right, well, have fun with that. All right, so while Shaw is fixing my stuff, I want to talk about actually transitioning the main message. So we can help to save the oceans thing, transitioning that to saving our nature. Looking at the original animation, we see that on leaving, it goes left. And then, yeah, but we need to keep track of what the previous one is. And so, unfortunately, with radio buttons, there's no way to do that. So we might need some JavaScript. Is that okay?
Yes. Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Which means we'll get rid of the radio buttons, but that's okay because
wait, why do you need JavaScript? Sorry.
Because we need to keep track of the previous one. Yeah. Because we need to know like which one needs to fade out at the same time that the other ones are fading in. See?
Well, okay. So what I like to do for situations like this is using transition instead of any sort of animation.
Okay.
And then we may be able to use CSS variables to get them actually moving the correct direction, just based on what the current CSS
okay. I know what you're talking about. All right, so we're saved this time. Don't use JavaScript.
Whew.
And let it be known that Shaw hates JavaScript.
That is the opposite of true.
I'm kidding. We all love JavaScript.
It certainly has its place.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Okay, so
going back to numbers. Let me know if you.
All right. So yeah, basically the thing here, it's a basic, I don't know if it's basic even, but it's a CSS thing where you want it to, I was going to say you want it to be its actually, honestly, now that I think about it, the reason that it's difficult right now is because we're trying to get it to shrink to its natural size, but since those numbers are so tall, its natural size is going to be tall as well. So I think the easiest way to do this is to actually set a height, which is what you were thinking of before.
Right.
So.
Well, yeah, for the clipping effect.
Yeah.
Let's see. That means I need that. Okay. It's just line items flex start. And in theory, oh, nope, did something bad. There we go. Okay. Yep. Now we can overflow hidden as parent container, and we get that nice little clipped effect. And it's possible we can use the CSS variables to determine opacity as well, but we may just save that. Let's do that. Good. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna get, let's see. I think I'll get started on a previous and next button while you're doing your thing.
Yeah, sounds good. And so sort of explain what I'm doing. So instead of doing display none, I'm just going to actually do the, I'm going to translate it to the left, and I'm going to set the opacity to 0. And that's going to make it work.
Yes. And yep, that's working. You always do such dramatic translates. It doesn't need to be that. It doesn't need to translate that far.
Well, I like adjusting later.
Save that for the after stream. Ooh, okay. If we're doing radio, we do. How are the?
Oh, hey, it works. If you look at it.
Uh-huh.
Nice.
Looking good. Very cool. Okay, now if we're doing radio buttons, in the label, let me see. Label targeting the name or the ID? Okay, it is the ID. So let's do one. Okay, that should work. The chat is awfully quiet today.
Maybe all this stuff is easy to them. I don't know.
Hopefully. Okay, where was I? Oh yeah. JavaScript panel out of here. Who needs it?
And if it is easy, please let us know, and we'll do harder ones next time. But we figured, like, this one's probably difficult because there's a lot of moving parts going on.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Literally a lot of moving parts.
Yeah. It's like there's a lot of moving trash in the ocean, and we need to do something about that.
To save it.
We need to save the ocean. Yeah.
Thanks, Metal Blue, for watching. Says first time watching, enjoying what you guys are doing, and waiting for more puns.
Cool. Well, I don't know. You have any more puns?
Might have to dig deep.
I really can't.
Does that count? No.
Which one?
Might have to dig deep for that. Is that oceany enough?
Sort of.
Okay. Is that
I
kind of
don't
an
know.
anti-pun?
Yeah, I'm drawing blanks. I really can't think of any right now. What are you complaining about?
Why am I blanking on the... Oh, it doesn't need the hash here. Oh, Santiago McRib, what are you waiting for? Just sink your teeth into these delicious puns.
Oh man, that's good. You know what? Pun pro.
You know, I'm gonna wave goodbye to you and kick Santiago McRib out of the chat.
Don't do it. He has so much left to live for.
I know Santiago, and yeah, that's true. He does. Okay. All right, so I got some little labels for us that we can start using. I might hide the actual inputs now that those are working. We can just do that. Equals nav button. Let's see. Sidet in the chat. No more puns. You're all washed up.
Oh, great. Keep him coming.
Please. Do emojis count as puns? Because we've got some of those in the chat as well.
Hey, emoji puns are great.
Okay, cool. 1, 2, 3, 4 working there. I'm gonna go ahead and hide those silly little inputs. Equals mean vector.
Ah, cool. I see what you're doing. It's very nice.
Name equals scene. Oh.
Looking pretty good so far.
It is one of our more.
But we need more oceanic phrases.
Right.
Because we have 4 scenes. So.
Well, we've got lots of puns in the chat.
That's true.
That are available so far. Don't rock the boat. It's a pretty good one.
You know what? I just discovered, and this should be basic CSS knowledge, but buttons do not inherit the parent's fonts. They only inherit the root's fonts, I believe. I'm testing that theory now.
Say that again?
So when you set railway on the site,
yes,
the ID of site, it did not carry over to the button. And so I was like, why is that?
Well, I believe Chris Coyer is probably yelling at the screen right now because he had a wonderful CSS trick article about styling buttons called Overriding Default Button Styles. And so one of the things Button has to contend with is it actually doesn't inherit the font.
Oh, it doesn't inherit at all.
No. So you actually need to manually set font inherit, which is usually what I end up doing on Button classes.
That makes sense. Well, I will do that. Emily.
And that's assuming you actually need a button, or if it should be a link instead. And then there's the whole debate about whether you should even use button or style links like buttons. But, you know.
I use buttons. It's the most accessible option. So.
That's actually working pretty nicely so far.
Good. Seeing.
Pointer.
Doing anything exciting for Memorial Day?
Oh yeah, that's this weekend.
Yeah.
Well, not working, if that counts.
That's exciting. Yeah. Many people don't have that luxury.
First time in a long time. For sure. That's great. What about yourself?
I am flying up to Colorado to visit a friend.
Oh.
Yeah. And because in Florida, we have these fun things called tropical systems and tropical storms and stuff. And so I don't even know if hurricane season officially started, but we already have like this huge system out on the Gulf Coast that's going to just, I don't know, drown everyone or something like for the next week.
Yeah. Something like
Yeah,
that.
no bueno.
Hey, did you move button to? Oh no, you're just okay.
No,
You're sliding the heading now instead of.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just getting more specific about what I slide.
Cool.
You know,
Cool.
I'm making sure everything's not too slippery, sliding. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Santiago McRib says garbage weekend in Florida. He's out there as well.
Oh, yeah, it's a bit of a mess out there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of this weather hit here in Houston first before making its way out there.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
It's been a bad week in terms of storms.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Hmm.
All right, so you have the section called contents, which I assume you're thinking of just as like the entire bottom.
Yes.
Unfortunately, and I mean, like that makes total sense, but when it comes to CSS grid, the grid doesn't like permeates through the layers. I think that's like the whole subgrid thing that they're coming up with now, which is basically like whatever you define as the grid and the parents, you should be able to apply to the children as well, because that's how grids work. It should be like this universal alignment system, but we don't have that yet. So I'm making a new dot rights contents class just so that we could align it to the bottom right. So,
That is fine by me.
but yeah, you know, for all of you watching, look up the whole. I think Rachel Andrews did a great article on subgrid and what it's about. So, definitely something to keep your eyes out for. It would solve this problem we're having right now.
Yeah. I think that's one of the reasons I haven't gotten as into grid as I should have by now.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to think about for sure.
It's just such a new layout system that I have yet to fully wrap my head around it. But
It is such a life hack. I mean, I love using um, CSS Grid. Because have you ever used Adobe Illustrator?
I have.
Okay, so you know when you had to like drag the rules from the left or from the top and basically like make these nice blue guidelines that you could snap things to and have them align perfectly, right? So that's the exact same thing as CSS Grid, or the exact same concepts, really. And so that's why I appreciate CSS Grid a lot, and I owe it my life.
It is quite a debt.
Yeah.
Styling. And we'll have a facts section in there as well.
Facts?
If going back to the, well, I don't know why I specifically called it facts. I guess it is. The
like
kind of left side there.
Not like a fax where you send stuff and it takes like.
Not FAQs either.
Not FAX?
No.
FACTS.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna do lorem ipsum just because I'm lazy. I'm sorry.
Fix it in post. One change I do want to try here is doing background attachment.
Darkens are broken, adding a color, color teal. Hold on, and it's gonna be fixed. There we go. Cool.
Okay, so one thing to note with background attachment fixed is it does not stay fixed if you are translating it via transform. So that won't specifically work. I was trying to give that nice parallaxy kind of effect with the way the text clips over the image.
Yeah, it's always fun to make it like as pixel perfect as possible. And with animations, you have just that entirely different layer of pixel perfect because this is, you know, pixels that are moving. Oh, okay, so you're making a left content now,
yes,
right?
Cool. that'll be our little facts container, facts container, and new container for this navigation.
It's amazing how many details we're actually getting into this. So that's pretty cool. I'll work on the you know, the whole left and right arrows, the next thing.
Oh yeah, that's what I was about to set up since you were working on the content, but
well, the content is pretty much, well, actually no, it's not done.
Yeah, we gotta do the sliding
yeah.
effect. I figured.
So guess what we're gonna use? Layers. Boom.
Bum bum bum.
And that's why, honestly, in so many of my pens, I will just add that layer class without thinking about it, just because I'm like, I'm going to use it. And it's just super useful. And so whatever styling I had before I did the layer, for example, in this .write content section, I will just now apply it to the layer. So instead of just .write content for the padding, it would be .write content layer using the direct child thingy or other. Direct child combinator, which is a very fun word to say because it's not as complex as you would think. Yeah. Everything is position relative.
Oh,
I made it that way. Yeah, because that's a Davidism.
Oh, Davidism.
Yep.
Okay, let's see. Surprising amount of content. Those.
It's not late. Facts and stats on ocean pollution. Okay. Facts and stats, states, stats on ocean pollution. And so right now you're going to see things overlapping, and that's a side effect of the whole layer technique. It means things are working. Did you know that, like, if you type lorem, especially in CodePen, if you type lorem once and then you type it again, it's going to give you a different lorem paragraph, which is pretty cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
With Emmet expansion?
Yeah, you just type lorem and then you're good to go, which is pretty nice.
That is rather handy.
Yeah.
Hey, Toasty, welcome back. Toasty just cheered another 100 bits. Thanks, buddy.
Hey, thanks, Toasty.
I appreciate that. Let's see.
Santiago says there's an error in our lorem ipsum. I can only assume that he or she, I don't know, studied Latin in college and found some grammatical errors. So please point those out to us so that we could fix them as soon as possible.
There's literally an error in the lorem ipsum. It just literally says error, and I don't know where that came from.
Wait, what?
Yeah. If you look where I'm highlighting.
Hold on. Error. What the? Is this actually in the lorem ipsum? I'm actually going to look that up right now.
Like, no, it can't be. It can't be. The double question mark I added. I did
but
that,
like,
but
is it? All right, error. I mean, okay, if you look at the original section 1.10.32 of De Finibus Bonorum et Malorum, written by Cicero in 45 BC, then you will see that it does say, "Sed ut perspicatus unde omnis istenatus error, sit voluptatem acu," blah, blah, blah. So there is an error in the lorem.
Literally an error in the lorem.
Yeah. So now, Metal Blue asks an excellent question. What changes will we need to make to have an odometer that animates all the way around 0 to 9 and then back to 0? That's a very good question. So if I understand you correctly, it's like, you go 9. Naturally, what it's going to do is it's going to go from 9 and it's going to go all the way back up to 0. So it's going to go in the opposite direction. But if you don't want that to happen, then there's two things you could do. Number one, you could model an actual odometer and actually make it 3D. So it's a little bit tricky, but you could align the numbers in a 3D way so that they're a circle. And then you could just basically rotate that circle. That would be rotating on the x-axis. That's definitely a little tricky, but definitely a lot of fun if you do that. But if you don't want to do that, then I guess the other way you could do it is you could treat 0 as like, well, you wouldn't be able to use transitions if you didn't do that. You would have to treat 0 as 100%, so it goes 9, and then as if it were 10, it goes up to 0, and then you would have to have like an immediate transition or animation where it just really quickly shifted back to the beginning. And that way it's sort of an optical illusion. Personally, if it got to that point, I like to model real life, so I would literally just model an odometer. I would make it some 3D circles. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. I
like trying to
understand.
make a CSS wheel. And there's a number of ways you could do that. Basically, if you have all the numbers on top of each other, then thinking about it in 3D, they would all need to extend out, which is translate Z. And then they would need to rotate up, which is rotate Z, right? No.
So what I would
Rotate.
do in terms of like making a Price is Right wheel. Oh, hello, Sean O'Toole. Thank you for following. A Price is Right wheel is kind of what you're describing with all the different faces on it.
Yeah.
So first, rotating the element, having it position absolute, so all of them are in the center. You rotate it. I believe it's rotate Y, and then you translate Z out the half of the radius of your circle. That's essentially what I do with the cubes here in this. Let me find that exact spot. Yeah, so it is, at least for some of the cube sides, rotate Y to get them facing the direction you want in the 3D space, and then the translate Z, I've got everything relative to 1em, so I'm just moving them out 0.5em or back negative 0.5 to get the opposite side. But if you're just rotating all the way around, you could easily do that. And then the animation still might be a little tricky, because once you get back to 0, it might want to rotate the opposite way, depending on how exactly you have your rotation set up. But that's just something you'll have to try and see.
Mm. So something I want to get into real quickly, and it's a completely different topic, but you know the background clipping on the stop text?
Yes.
So there's actually a little bit of parallax going on there, as if the background is moving at a different rate.
So
that's possible?
That's what I was trying a minute ago. Unfortunately, if you do just a simple background attachment fixed, it doesn't actually do anything. Oh, well, hold on. Nope. It does not do anything. So.
Right, but what if we animate the position of the background as well?
Well, you can do that, certainly. However, that can potentially cause performance issues, but...
That's fine with me.
Let's see.
Try it out. Let's see.
All right, so real quick, background position.
Because sometimes with effects like these, that's going to be inevitable. You can't really avoid those. In which case, you do have some things to, sort of help, which goes into CSS containment. And so you could say like contain paint. And that way you're basically telling the CSS engine like, hey, I know there's a lot of repainting going on, but this is the only thing that's going to be repainted. Don't propagate the paint changes outside of here. And that might save you a few milliseconds or so.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
It does.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, I definitely. Yeah, that's a much cooler effect, honestly. We probably need to make the background bigger.
A bit bigger. Yeah.
Math.
Let's see. 50% plus negative 50% times percentage, and that should help us with our alignment a little bit.
Yeah.
25%.
So that gives that really cool parallax effect for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm still getting the cutoff text every now and then. Oh, because I have background attachment fixed. Remove that. Get back down to maybe 160. Should feel a little bit better. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, parallax solved.
Nice. And honestly, I mean, the performance is still not that bad at all. I figure it would probably be really bad if the images were huge. So that would be a concern, just because we saw that in a previous episode where we were using sliding layers. We were being as performant as possible, but there was still a tiny bit of jank. And the reason that there was such jank was because the images we were using were so huge. So even translating such a big image would cause performance issues.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing I typically do is pare down the image size, let it just scale up a little bit. For background kind of images that you're not really focused on, it's not going to be super noticeable most of the time. Typically, I'll never do an image over like 1600 pixels wide, just because file size wise and everything else wise, like that's a bit crazy. And performance wise, it certainly helps to keep them smaller.
Right.
Mouse always disappears. All right, so what I was planning to do with the nav buttons is similar to what we've done with the numbers, and sliding the label for each radio button over as you're toggling through, so that when you click what appears to be next, you're actually clicking the label for the one after.
Tricky. But good, yeah. I love doing stuff like that because it's an illusion. It really, and as long as you're avoiding JavaScript, you could really sell this illusion.
Right. That's certainly the trick here. Okay. So X. Let's go do a little copy pasta.
It'll be weird.
What?
Coffee pasta.
Coffee pasta?
Yeah, like I went to Italy last year. Oh, that's huge. And I wondered, like, what do they have for breakfast? It's like, what's a very typical Italian thing to have for breakfast? And I didn't know. Anyway.
I don't know either.
So, coffee pasta.
Toasty asks, using labels to toggle the sliding. Is this pure CSS? Yes.
Oh, yeah, it's pure CSS.
So far, we have avoided
JavaScript
the
completely.
dreaded JavaScript. And so, yeah, we've got our radio input up here, and everything else is happening like normal. Normal-ish. Okay. Super weird. Will you take a look at my nav container real quick? I've got it highlighted. So I've got those items in inline block. They're, so in theory, let me actually add a border because that's always debug mode 101. Okay, so my container is actually not sized to the content.
And you just make it full width and...
No.
So what effect are you trying to achieve here?
So what I'm going to have is the left and right, or the previous and next buttons are actually going to be dummies up underneath these actual labels for the for the radio buttons. And
Oh,
so
okay.
the labels themselves will slide, but the previous and next buttons will
I
stay
would
static.
just straight up, honestly, I would just straight up do a display none, display block sort of thing.
That's true. That's fine.
Because if you do that, yeah, there's literally nothing animating there. So, display none is going to do the trick.
Okay.
And so we would hide obviously we would hide the current one and anything other than the previous or next ones, which you could do via CSS.
That's true.
I think.
It feels so sloppy, David.
I don't know about the previous one though. Like, because you can't target the previous.
Right. You would have to just kind of get crazy with your selector.
Yeah.
Well, actually, target the 4 there. All right.
Yeah, that part definitely gets tricky.
Yeah, it'll be a bit crazy with the selectors. It's workable. Probably do double knots.
Cool. So I'm working on I'm doing the factoid for the second one, and I have to use sup, and that's something that I haven't used in a long, long time. But it's awesome because right now CodePen is doing this challenge. Or I think that was last. No, it's this week. Using sub and sup in order to just style them, get creative with it. But in this instance, we won't be getting creative. We'll just be doing it.
Say 2, 8. Okay.
How's it going with the number things? Feel a little weird?
A little bit. Oh. In theory, yeah, that's all working now. Okay. Yeah, just gotta play with some alignment here. Now, in theory,
and now they disappeared. Great.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm doing some things here.
So yeah, using labels to toggle slides, that's a favorite technique of mine. And I know that Shaw has used that technique in the past as well. And we do have a few pens where we did do that. Let me see if I could dig up a couple while Shaw is figuring out the numbering problem.
Breaking things.
Yeah. Move fast and break things, right?
Exactly. And work.
You know what?
Work in production.
Yeah. I'm actually really glad that I really doubt that non-developers watch our show. Maybe they do. But if they saw how fast it took to make these things, that would be no bueno.
Yeah. One of our first YouTube comments was from someone basically saying, "Yeah, this really shouldn't have taken 2 hours if CSS was actually good."
Yeah.
Can't specifically disagree, but
sort of. I think that's a little bit naive as well. CSS has a very specific purpose.
Yes.
And that purpose is to take 2 hours to do something.
Okay, let's see.
So I'm posting in the chat another CodePen where I used labels, or I think I used labels, to change the state of the application and like actually make it slide. I'm not farting, that's a chair moving.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, so it does come in very handy. Okay, I see it working.
Yeah.
Sort of, it's just not going backwards.
Right. Previous is having a bit of
yeah.
Bit of a problem. Which I can expand my selectors a little bit if I really want to. There's probably a better way. But yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
Yeah. I need to think of other ocean-saving phrases.
Only you can prevent ocean fires? From Smokey the
that's
tuna?
That's a good one. No. Smokey. Smokey the salmon. Yeah, nice smoked salmon. Yeah, no, but like only you and large oil companies can prevent, ocean. Only you can prevent ocean fires.
Oh, sorry. You shared that pin in the chat, and I should pull that up so we can.
Yeah, if you'd like.
CSS-only colorful calendar concept. Ooh.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, I broke it. Okay.
Did you break it? It's impossible to break it.
A little bit. That's beautiful. I like it. Who needs React?
A lot of people. All right, only you can prevent ocean fires. What's another saying?
I know I came up with that, but that just tickles me. Okay, do prev not for.
Do not litter on beach. That's actually one that irks me because, you know, I live in Florida. I go to the beach a lot, and I see like those plastic rings that people use when they carry their sodas or beers or whatever, and they just leave it on the beach. And that's how, like, you know, dolphins get caught up on it and seabirds and stuff like that. It's no good.
Yeah. We got another follower. Sorry, I missed your name as it came up. Mr. Something. Thank you for following. That was super specific, so hope you feel appreciated. Okay, I think I've got toggles working here. And actually, we could make this loop around so that going from clicking next when on the final loops you back around to the start. Because why not? Yeah,
It's a good idea.
That keeps it looping around really well. Okay, got that. Just need to add one here. Yeah, this is not my preferred method for how to do these toggles, but hey, it's getting the job done without being too crazy.
Yeah.
Sorry if the stream is dropping. Rich No, thank you for following. Glad to have you on board.
I'm loving all these new followers.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys hanging in there. And sorry if the stream is bouncing up and down a little bit. I'm not sure what's happening there. Comcast is supposed to be out working on our neighborhood lines tomorrow, so hopefully that continues helping with the stream quality here. Okay, so these can actually be opacity 0, I think, and they'll still work. Yeah.
Cool. I need 2 more paragraphs. Then I'm done. Reminds me of college.
Gotta meet your word count. I feel like we're getting some overlap in one of the scenes. In scene 2, we're getting some craziness. Oh, I see what it is. Got it.
Oh, did I do my counting wrong?
A little bit. Scene 4, scene 2, scene... Yeah, why is that? Okay, yeah, now it's working. This is actually working out really well.
Cool.
Okay, let me go back to the button styles.
I like your little illusion. Like you could visibly see the illusion of how you're changing the labels in there.
Right.
And to prevent some race conditions, what you could also do is just remove the transitions from those buttons as well, if you want. Otherwise,
Well, that's what I was trying to do with the transitions, is to give it enough time. But I don't know why my transition delay does not seem to be working. Did I typo something?
you know what's cool? If you look at the facts, you could see that they're animating out at different rates, and that's completely natural because we're doing it based on their total width.
Mm-hmm.
And so since some are shorter than the other, it gives us this really cool effect. So I dig
Does.
it.
Still feel like you're overzealous with the amount you actually
I
move
am. Okay.
things.
You know what? Let's fix that. Because I'm doing 50% now. So what do you think's a good number? 40? 30?
Yeah, I'd go as low as 25.
You know what?
Sold.
27 and a half.
Ah.
Okay, I did 30. That's still okay?
Sure.
Fine. You know what? 25.
I have no idea. See, 25 feels really good.
Yeah. That's why I stuck at 25 exactly. Good with 25.
Okay, I see.
Are you killing the transitions from them?
No, my specificity was off in some capacity.
Hmm. Yeah. One interesting thing, like we have this white on picture thing. And so sometimes the white could really become confusing to read. And so the solution for that is just a very subtle drop shadow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you look in the nav, I have one already.
Oh, really? On the text?
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe it's too subtle.
Well, yeah, where it's positioned exactly over the image, you can't really tell. But yeah, I added that in there.
Hmm. And one thing I forgot to mention about the layer technique, when you have one layer on top of the other, and that layer is not supposed to be, seen, you also want to make sure that it can't be clicked either. And so I added pointer events none to those.
Yes.
And that way the user could now select text or whatever they want.
Go. Seems to work decently well at throttling. transition bit. We'll leave that in place, and I think that'll nicely container. Using anymore. Get out of here. I'm using I was saying flex and typing block.
Happens to the best of us.
Mm-hmm. Wait, different color here. Sip that. Sorry.
But yeah, well, I mean, that looks good. Are you satisfied, or are you still working on those?
Just putting the finishing touches on the buttons to get them closer to the comp, and then I think we can wrap it.
Yeah, sounds good.
Just a little too faded. Hold on one moment. Sorry if that little tick is very loud. All right, let's double check the original and make sure we're on track. So, pretty good. Hey, David.
Yes.
Do you know what time it is?
What time is it?
It is time for Keyflections.
Oh my god.
A quick review of the techniques used to build this animation. If you have any questions, please ask us in the chat, and we'll be happy to answer as we go along. I think you're still working though, so.
I am, but I'm done. I promise.
Pencils down.
Ah!
So yes.
Okay.
Oh, good. What did you do? What have you done?
I typed 2 rems instead of 2 pixels. Okay, I'm done. I'm hands down.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's go back to our original here and just quickly summarize what we've done so far. So we were working on this beautiful animation by Tubic called Save the Oceans Website. That's got some nice little sliding movements here as you toggle between states, and that creates a really cool effect. We broke it down with GIF Scrubber, and then we got into CodePen here. So let's go back to the first slide, and I'll just toggle through the slides really quick so we can see how that looks. Awesome. And one of the things I will ask as we go along is how you accomplished the sliding animation, David.
For the numbers?
Oh, well, actually, let's cover what we did. So this is all being managed without JavaScript. We are using input type equals radio to handle all of our state. If you've never seen that technique before, it's very handy. Basically, using labels, you can target an input, a radio input, to toggle that specific input on, and then you can use the checked pseudo class in your CSS to make all sorts of changes to your content. So one of the things we set up early on was a few CSS variables. We've got the total number of slides, a starting scene, and the percentage of what the current scene is out of the total. And then with our inputs and our checked pseudo class, we populate the scene variable with 1, 2, 3, or 4 based on the input that's checked. And then with that checked pseudo class as well, we're also toggling the current scene out of existence with pointer events none, and changing out the opacity of that as well. And you couldn't do just 25%, could you? Had to go.
What? No, I'm sorry. But yeah, I could explain all that real quick. So this might get a little bit complicated. Actually, no, it won't. So what we have here is two parts. So the first one over here is anything that is not the currently selected scene. So that's this not selector right over here. We're going to say move it to the left and lights off, opacity 0. That's an important part for the next part right here. This is where we're selecting the one after the selected one. So that's that plus data scene. So whichever one is the selected one, we're going to translate that to the right. Now here's the trick. Because the opacity is 0, you're not going to see it move from the left to the right. And that way, when you go from next to previous, like it looks as expected and everything moves the right way. Just because behind the scenes, they're moving to their correct position because of that opacity 0.
Yes,
so
that's a great tip. And I'll explain the nice stop text, which is one of the kind of shining features of this animation. So we've got just a large block of text, and then using our friend background clip text and color transparent, the background is actually clipped to that text. Imagine that. And with that, we are using transform translate X with a nice little calc here to move the text over based on the percentage of the slides that's happening. And we're also moving the background position in the same way so that you get a nice parallaxy kind of feel as it moves along.
It's like if it's floating in the ocean, which funny enough, we didn't use floats anywhere in our CSS, but we should have. That could have been some gold pun potential.
Potential. Potential.
That was a stretch.
Well, if we're using grid, we can still just put one of these elements as float, right? And it doesn't matter.
Yes.
Yeah, there we go. So yeah, why don't you explain the numbers, the sliding numbers that we failed to do last time?
Yeah, this isn't because I was trying to do it a different way last time and it didn't work. Instead, we imagined it like it was an odometer, like you had a nice big strip of numbers from 1 through 9, in this case from 1 through 4, and instead of trying to change the numbers and manipulate like before and after pseudo elements, instead I am translating the Y value. And so we're doing a little bit of math to get that exactly right. Let me find that real quick. All right, so over here, I think I explained it earlier in the video, but if you skip through that part for whatever reason, the first part here, that's going to give you a number between like 3 and 0. So 1 corresponds to 3, 2 corresponds to 2, 3 corresponds to 1, 4 corresponds to 0. And given those numbers, we multiply them by 25% basically. So then you're going to get 75%, 50%, 25%, and 0. 0 being the bottom position, which corresponds to 4, 75% being the top position, but moved down 25% so that you could see that 1. So yeah, it's essentially a math problem, but it's a fun math problem.
With a great result.
With a great result, yes.
And with overflow hidden, you don't see those other other items. We probably could have messed with opacity a little bit if we wanted to get them to fade out at the same time. Oh, you change something? Okay.
No, did you change something? I didn't change anything. No, what I'm doing is I'm just making it touch the bottom because that's how it was in the original.
Yes.
So.
Hey, there we go. Feels nice. Okay. What else? Is there anything?
Yeah, so at the bottom, we're basically doing the same sliding animation as we do at the top.
The width.
And
yes.
Yeah. So other than that, that's pretty much it. There's a few other nice things too, like the use of sup and a lot of flexbox and grid goodness over here. I even colored the user select just to give it a more oceanic feel. But yeah, other than that, that's it.
Well, super cool. Well, I think we can bring this to a close. What do you think, David?
Sure thing.
All right, let me get our outro music going here. You've been watching Keyframers, the animated collaborative coding live stream where we bring imaginative user interfaces to life. If you've enjoyed this episode and would like to see more from David and I, there are many ways you can support us. You can follow and subscribe here on Twitch at twitch.tv/keyframers, and we love for you to participate in these live streams each week. That's a huge help to us. You can also like and subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/keyframers. That's where our backlog is, if you will. They only stay on Twitch for a little while, so go to YouTube to see our past episodes. You can also spread the word. Tweet us at Keyframers and get the word out about the live streams each week. And you can also support us on Patreon at patreon.com/keyframers.
Yep. Follow us on Twitter and Twitch at Keyframers to get notified when we'll be streaming next. So next Thursday. A video of this stream will be available soon because Shaw is good at that kind of thing. So keep an eye on the at Keyframers Twitter for the link. And we do accept submissions for future episodes, so tweet at Keyframers with any animations that you would like to see made. You can also present questions or challenges to us that we'll try to answer on the air in under 2 hours, which surprisingly today took about an hour and a half, to be honest with you. But yeah, pretty much under 2 hours to do this one.
Yeah, right now we're sitting at about 1:55. So
yeah,
that was pretty good.
Very nice. I could go to bed early tonight.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Until next week, keep animating.
All right. Adios.